Wait, I believe in Jesus. That means I don't need to read the Old Testament, right? Actually, we should. And it's recommended by scholars that we do read the Old Testament. Why? Even though Jesus came to fulfill the law, not to abolish it, it is because he taught from the law. So when we read about Jesus, this man that we serve, he is referencing a book that we should be well informed on. I didn't understand any of this because when I go to church as a Christian, they just really teach from the New Testament, mostly the Gospels. So I wasn't really even familiar with the Old Testament. So did I need to read it? This is what Dr. Richard Averbeck, a scholar PhD who has known this and taught this for decades, says to Christians and what he recommends for us with regard to knowing the Old Testament. What if you could just give me advice as just like a new Christian on the best way to obey the law? Well, like would you recommend I read the Old Testament?
Yes, I'd recommend you read the Old Testament, but then I'd
Oh, okay.
recommend that you follow that because Jesus read the he taught from the Old Testament. They didn't have the
Right.
New Testament yet.
Right.
So he taught from the Old Testament, and we can see how he does that. And he does that, for example, in Matthew 5, talking about, I've not come to destroy the law. I've come to live it out. Okay?
Yeah, what
And
does
to
that
show you what it
mean?
means to live it out.
Hmm.
Okay? So he taught us keep the law, but he taught us how to keep the law. And he taught us that it's not just about keeping the law, about keeping the law from the heart, written on the heart. Okay? So he develops that. And he talks about, it said, this is Matthew 5, you're not supposed to murder according to the law, right? But I tell you, you're not supposed to hate. Where does murder come from? So he's dealing with how the law is to be written on the heart. That's why it sounds sometimes like the New Testament makes it harder. Well, it doesn't. It makes it more intimate to what's going on in your heart.